On August 31st of this year, 2023, Netflix is releasing what I believe could be their biggest show of all time. They have spent $144 million on this venture. That's $18 million per episode. Yes, Netflix has decided to do something what I consider to be extremely risky, giving the checkered past of live action adaptations, and has decided to do a live action adaptation of One Piece. This could be so good. It could also be really, really bad. 2 weeks ago, Netflix released a 3-minute full-blown trailer for One Piece. And I wanted to come in here today and give my reaction, some of my thoughts, and tell you why I am cautiously optimistic, maybe even borderlining on the fact I'm excited. I was going to say borderline excited. I am excited, though knowing it could go poorly still. I do want to lead with saying that trailers can be extremely deceptive. So this could be one of those things where I think the trailer looks good in some aspects, maybe not so great in some others, and then the show is just something completely different from what we've seen here. And budget is not everything. I wanted to start out saying, look how much money Netflix has invested into this show. And I did that because I want people to see the fact that Netflix wants this to be a success. I guarantee it. And I do think it has the potential to be the biggest thing that they have ever done because the One Piece fandom is so passionate. But we have seen other shows that have record-breaking budgets that just ended up being a bit disappointing, such as Rings of Power for Amazon Prime. Putting all of that aside, though, my gut reaction to this trailer is that I did think most of this was fantastic. I am not a film critic. I'm not a CGI expert, but there was a sense of wow and wonder and spectacle to some of the shots that we got that I thought would be very, very difficult to capture from the manga or the anime. This is going to be its own telling of One Piece, and we will always have the manga and the anime and the movies and everything else before this, and it is independent of that. But this is another version or telling of One Piece, and I think some of it lands pretty well. There were 4 things in this trailer that I did love. Number 1, I loved Buggy in this trailer. I think his look is exactly what I would have wanted from it. The way the lines were being delivered, the little that we got were great, and honestly, from what we could see, the Chop Chop cannon looked pretty dope. 2, there's a very specific scene in the trailer that, for some reason, all the times I watched it, just gave me a really good feeling, and that is whenever Sanji kicks the dude in the head that's about to attack Zoro from behind, and Sanji comes flying into the frame, boots the guy in the head, the guy plops in the water, Sanji lands behind Zoro like, I got your back. I know that this is a pretty general combat scene, but it feels like a Sanji moment that I have read in the manga. It feels real, and I just loved it. Every single time it plays in the trailer, I do kind of get that feeling of wanting to kind of pump my fist a little bit, which is not something that I generally do when I watch TV shows or movies for that matter, but it's something that the manga has got me to do multiple times. That scene just feels right. The third thing that I love from this trailer is knowing that Luffy putting the hat on Nami in Arlong Park is going to be in the show. There are going to be cuts in this adaptation. It is going to be its own telling of the One Piece story. However, there are going to be some scenes that for me are non-negotiable. And being in the East Blue Saga, this was the number 1 thing I thought of, and I said, they better not cut that. And they didn't. You see the emotion on Nami's face. You see the straw hat go on her head, and we know what happens next in that walk. And it's just, oh man, if they can land those emotional moments, because you can tell the silliness is already there, but if they can land those type of emotional moments and make the right choices about what to include in the story for this type of telling, it could be big. And the 4th and final thing that I really loved from this trailer, and it's a very small thing, but I really just love the expansive ocean shots. I like the settings that we're seeing. The Baratier looks, in my opinion, really good. The Going Merry, I'm not sold on it, which might be weird. Going Merry is kind of plain in the manga for where I am. I'm going into Water 7 now. It's not the most lavish boat of all time, but there's something about being plain whenever it's in a manga to being plain that's on the screen. And for some reason, the Going Merry didn't give me that visceral, heartfelt reaction that I thought it would. But with that aside, this is supposed to be about something I love. I just love the shots of the ocean. I love the Baratier shot, and it does feel like there's a sense of adventure out there for us to go explore with this crew. Things that just generally rubbed me the right way would have been the fact that I thought the special effects and the abilities and all that stuff actually looked pretty good. Again, I'm not a CGI expert, but Luffy's abilities that we see in this trailer, to me, looked fine. In fact, some of them I thought looked pretty good. I've already mentioned the fact that the Chop Chop cannon was great, but even the fight scenes that we see with Zoro really came off very, very well. I like the way they were shot in the minimal time that we saw them on the screen. And all that leads me into the biggest takeaway from this trailer is that, from my experience, and I haven't got caught up yet, and some of your opinions are going to be different than mine, but this is, for me personally, it felt like it did capture some essence of what One Piece is, at least in East Blue Saga. And I also felt like what I experienced so far, there is a lot of wackiness, goofiness, weirdness, and emotional moments. And all of that kind of was put into the trailer. So if they can hit on all those beats, it's going to be a good thing. So for me, it just kind of felt right. And I want to spend some time talking about the cast because there's been a lot of talk online about whether the casting is good or not, and I'm going to give my take on it and take it for what it's worth. Every single scene that Nami was in the trailer, every piece of dialogue delivered, I actually thought was pretty great. I wasn't so sure about her hair when I saw it in the teaser, but it didn't stick out to me as a negative when I was watching the full trailer, so I think that's a good sign. And she may be my favorite casting so far. You already know I think Buggy is amazing. If it's not Nami, I'd probably pick Buggy for my favorite character to see on screen so far. But Arlong looked pretty damn good as well, did he not? With all the creativity that Oda has, I worried about what that would look like in a live setting. And Arlong is a good indicator, possibly, that they're going to be able to really pull this off. Luffy. Okay, Luffy works for me in a lot of ways. Like when I see the picture of him, it feels okay, and I don't mind the casting. I kind of wish the straw hat was bigger. I know that's a really weird thing, and I know they probably don't want to hang in his face so we can see his face, but for some reason, the hat being just slightly smaller, I don't know how I feel about that. Some of Luffy's lines that were delivered in the trailer did edge on the side of maybe coming off a little bit cheesy, but with full context of a scene, it might just work. So I'm a bit undecided when it comes to Luffy. I do think that the gentleman playing Luffy definitely looks the part, but we're going to have to see more of how they're going to write that character and how he delivers those lines. I was mixed to negative on Zoro's casting at first, and that was mainly due to the fact that I thought Zoro would have a little bit more of a presence to him. Like in the manga, he's not like Guts level of jacked up, right? Like he's not walking around with his traps up to his ears, but he has a Chad aura, right? He kind of feels like that dude that doesn't have to say much and can kind of intimidate you. And I don't get that from this casting. I thought he would just be a little bit more buff until I saw the action scenes and the facial expressions. In that manner, I thought that Zoro actually was pretty great. We will see if I will go back to my original critique of the casting, but from what I could see in the trailer, it looks like this guy can deliver the goods and make Zoro the epic character that he truly is. So I'm hopeful. Usopp we didn't get to see enough of, which as an Usopp lover, that bothered me. I want to see more from Usopp. I don't want to see him kind of relegated to like a very background character. And then we do see a decent amount of Sanji, but I can't really make, one of my favorite scenes is the kick, but I want to see more of Sanji, his backstory, and how that's going to relay. Because just being a cool dude that throws kicks, not the hardest job in the world in Hollywood. However, Sanji is a complex character, has a really great backstory, and has a ton of dynamics on the Baratier. And those will be the moments that'll decide whether Sanji was a good casting or not. Kind of mentioned some concerns, though, thus far, but my biggest concern is the fact that we can get some indication from a trailer, but not all, and I would say the most important parts. We kind of expect with a budget like this that the show will at least look good in some circumstances, but we have to worry about pacing, we have to worry about writing, and then we have to worry about the adaptation choices of what to cut. I borderline loved this trailer, but I am very cautious in saying that because I know Netflix's track record and also live adaptation track records. They're not great. They're a bit checkered. Netflix has had some good stuff, but they are the kings and queens of canceling things in season 2, even when a show is really, really good, like Mindhunter. It appears they are giving this truly a grand line effort, and I respect that. But that doesn't negate the fact that this is going to be challenging. I think getting a larger audience outside of us who are watching One Piece, reading One Piece, and for the general audience, which is what you really want. You want to get more people into the story, and hopefully then they make their way to the manga and the anime, which will probably remain, it will remain the best way of telling the story because it's Oda's original vision, right? Especially when it comes to like the manga. But to get those general audience members in, you have to make this believable in some way. You have to be able to suspend the viewer's disbelief. And a lot of that comes down to feel. There were a couple moments where whenever the crew or even Roger's scene, there are times where I look at the setting and I look at the characters' outfits and the characters around them, and I say, oh, this actually feels like a thing. Like all these scenes with Arlong felt good. They just felt immersive in the times that I watched this trailer, like over and over and over again. However, whenever I was looking at the crowd, what seemed to be at Roger's scene, the people's outfits around just, it felt like a bunch of people at a con. And that worries me just a little bit because I've seen other shows that are more into the fantasy genre struggle with this as well. There's a fine line of saying, wow, these are all great costumes, to people knowing they're good costumes, but being able to ignore it because they're so enveloped in the scene itself. And that is going to be the deciding factor for the general audience, not us who are watching reactions and getting excited right now, but the people who are going to stumble upon this when it's #1 new show on Netflix on August 31st. So I'm excited. All of the caution and worries aside, there is so much of this trailer that I really did love. And I did think that the special effects did instill a sense of awe, which is what I was hoping for. Let's just cross our fingers about the writing and that Netflix manages it quite well. So I will definitely make more videos about the One Piece show after it releases on August 31st. I may do an episode by episode breakdown, or maybe I will just watch the whole thing, binge it because I can't stop, because hopefully it's that good, and then give you my thoughts. But either way, I will be transparent and I will be honest. I know some of you that watch my channel have been at this for years, decades, and I just want to say that I respect your opinions, and I hope that what we get will be satisfying as a new telling of One Piece. And of course, some of us don't necessarily want that, and that's okay too, because we will always have the manga and the anime. Let's hope that this is something that can further one of the greatest fandoms in the world, but also one of the biggest and most beloved stories that has ever been told. I am Jimmy Nuts here for Dudes Talking Manga, and if you would like to watch me go through my first reread of One Piece, I am about to get into Water 7, and those videos will continue as normal next week, where I get that first arc from the Water 7 saga out of the way. And I would just love to have you along and hear your thoughts about the show whenever it comes out. I ran a poll here on the channel, and 84% out of thousands upon thousands of votes said that they were at least excited for the show, if not just cautiously optimistic. And I think that that is a good way to be. But until we see you next time here on the channel, I hope you're good, I hope you're safe, and we'll see you again real soon here on Dudes Talking Manga.